Tobias Nagely at Air and Space Forces magazine. I'm with Dave Deptula. He's the dean of the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies. Dave, we've spent 3 days at the 2025 Airspace and Cyber Conference. Tell us your impressions. What have you seen this week? What are some takeaways?
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity to be here, Tobias, and address those. I think coming right in the very first morning with Secretary Meink's comments, he really focused and shared with the audience his realization of just how serious the challenges with readiness inside the Air Force are. And I think we're very fortunate to have an Air Force Secretary that understands that. And while all the plans haven't been unveiled, it's very important to him to identify and have in his mind, and clearly a priority of his, is to change the direction of declining readiness and to make it a increase and improve readiness across the board. And in that realization, and for him to mention that in his opening remarks, I think was very significant.
Prominently, and he referred really to his, he's got 4 years, and that's what he's going to focus on.
Right.
Okay, second takeaway.
Yeah, I think a bit following on the first takeaway as an example is the incredible performance of both Airmen and Guardians, although it was air-focused, is Operation Midnight Hammer. And the performance of not just our 30-plus-year-old B-2s and their crews, but all the associated other 100-plus aircraft that went into that strike. Now, here's the challenge. They performed magnificently. It was beyond textbook in terms of being able to project power halfway around the world in a matter of hours. A matter of fact, what the Air Force and the Space Force always does is they make things look easy. Well, it wasn't easy. But here's the second part of that story, or the second half of that story, is it was a raid. It was not unlike the Doolittle raid in terms of World War II. And the reality is we wouldn't have been able to do that same thing the next day. We need to recover the Air Force in terms of capacity, capability, and readiness to be able to execute a long-term campaign. And so while it was a magnificent performance, it also showed up some of the depth challenges that the Air Force has. And I think is recognized, it's what we at Mitchell Institute have been talking about for over 10 years. The Air Force is the oldest, the smallest, and the least ready it's ever been in its history. It's on track to get smaller and less ready, and that needs to recover.
Meanwhile, we've got a Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force that is growing.
Right.
And if it isn't yet, will soon be bigger than the Air Force.
Right. And it's important that the national leadership, the Air Force understands this. Part of the Air Force's challenge is making sure that the Congress understands this, the administration understands this, and the American people understand this. Because I think when they do, they'll realize, oh my goodness, we need to get the Air Force to stop this decline, recover, and then start to rebuild.
So you mentioned Guardians had a role there,
yeah,
obviously, and you're not doing that operation without space. What about space?
Yeah. Joe Saltzman, the Chief of Space Operations, I think did a wonderful job in his presentation in the context of highlighting what he's doing right now today in the Space Force, and that is to take acquisition, to speed up acquisition of the systems that they have and have planned on the books. But by doing that, as he lays out his force design for the next 15 years, He wants to bring space operators and space acquisition people together to act as an integrated whole. And I think it's a laudatory goal that he's embarked upon. And at the same time, during his remarks, he talked about how over the last 5 years, people have been paying attention to space and they have increased the budget. But remember, the Space Force budget started very, very small. I would tell you it is still underfunded. It needs much greater infusion of not just money, but also personnel. And
which is the most expensive thing that you can buy.
That's true, but we're talking about a number of personnel that you can find in one Army base or one big Air Force wing. That needs to increase, along with the consolidation of space activities that are external to the Space Force's decision capacity. And we need to fix that too. So I think General Saltzman's on a path with respect to all three of those challenges. And I also want to give a shout out to General Allvin's presentation. He really did a magnificent job in his presentation. I commend people, if they didn't see it, they take a look at it online. And the focus on people. Because, yeah, we have challenges with readiness accounts. We have challenges with capacity. It's declining, continues to decline. But we still have the greatest Airmen and Guardians in the world today.
Well, I can't think of a better place to stop than that, Dave. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thank you, Tobias. Take care.